from our 7 Tasmania studios. Your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Our top story tonight. After 4 days of deliberations, a jury has cleared all defendants of murder in a trial of a Burnie father killed more than 2 years ago. But several have been found guilty of the lesser charge of manslaughter. Let's bring in McKenna Bailey, who's outside the Supreme Court in Launceston. McKenna, what are the details?
Kim, the verdict was handed down just after 3 o'clock this afternoon. The jury finding all 5 defendants not guilty of murder. But 33-year-old Cody Christopher Shane Sheehan was found guilty of manslaughter. The jury determining he was the one who delivered the fatal sword chop to the back of Mr Medcraft's knee. He cried as that verdict was delivered. 31-year-old Lucas Ford followed a similar fate, guilty of manslaughter. 24-year-old Kelsey Marie Ford and 54-year-old Michael William Hanlon also guilty of manslaughter. But 37-year-old Jeffrey James Deverell will walk free. By majority, he was found not guilty of any charge. Following the decision, we spoke to the victim's mother, Leanne. Bobby was just 23 at the time of his death. Here's what she had to say about the verdict.
Well, it's happened 2.5 years ago, you might as well say, nearly. And that 2.5 years I've lived hell. This is my only child, my miracle child that I couldn't have kids and I've had him. And now to know what these guys have got, in my eyes, it's not justice. They're going to be known as murderers for the rest of their life. So in my eyes, that's justice for the rest of mine. Me and Bobby had a bond that no one will ever take away from me. And knowing his little boy, his 5-year-old little boy is going to not have his dad. Yeah, that's the worst.
The trial has taken 2 months, a verdict coming 2 years since the tragic event. Sentencing will begin tomorrow and bringing an end to this sad and long-running case. Kim?
Well, a man in his 60s has been killed in a horrific crash near St Mary's. The driver rolled his truck when travelling down a steep, windy road. Now police are trying to determine if speed or mechanical failure contributed.
A heap of timber and building materials litter the remote Semmons Road near St Mary's, the wreckage of a fully laden truck which tipped around 8:30 this morning.
It does look like the vehicle has struck the bank in the first instance.
The rollover killed the driver, a man in his 60s who was also the only one inside the vehicle. He was travelling down this steep decline when he hit the bank and rolled. Police are honing in on whether mechanical failure or speed were factors. The rain and the road's deteriorating condition making the job harder for investigators.
At this stage it's difficult to tell what's been the real actual cause of the crash.
The road connects St Mary's to Upper Scamander, and locals told us it has taken on more traffic since a landslip closed the more direct St Mary's pass.
There is a fair bit of traffic through this road at the moment, but I can't tell you how much was present at the time.
It's understood another motorist travelling on this remote road was the first to raise the alarm. Police are warning all drivers to take extra care when travelling on gravel roads, especially in these conditions.
Gravel roads are different to other bitumen roads. Vehicles behave differently, road surfaces behave differently in weather like this and in dry weather. So if you're on a gravel road, take that into account.
It's the 49th fatality on our roads in 2022, 20 more than this time last year. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The culture at Ashley Youth Detention Centre is under an international spotlight this week, with concerns about the centre being raised at a meeting of the UN's Committee Against Torture in Switzerland. It's once again led to calls for the site to be closed on a day where Tasmanians are asked to speak up against child abuse.
Once silent, Tiffany Skeggs is now looking to help give a voice to those in need of support.
It's really important that we recognise that it's only 1 in 6 at the most that will ever or have ever disclosed their abuse.
Ms Skeggs was a key figure in the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry into Child Sex Abuse. She's now an ambassador for National Survivors Day, which held its inaugural event today.
The culture of silence and the culture of complacency in Tasmania is the first step that needs to be taken.
The day coming just a week after Tasmania's government apologised in Parliament.
Ensuring that they have their day where it is nationally recognised, the pain and the suffering and also the important healing process moving forward.
However, one of the remaining issues from the Commission yet to be addressed is rearing its head. The failures of Ashley Youth Detention Centre coming under global scrutiny at the United Nations.
Sharing what our knowledge is about the concerns here in Australia.
Human Rights Commissioner Lorraine Finlay is in Geneva this week at a meeting of the UN's Committee Against Torture. Ashley's shameful history front and centre.
They were absolutely horrifying accounts of how over many years now it seems that children and young people have been harmed.
Leading for calls for it to be closed as soon as possible.
I'm hoping I won't have to visit Ashley Youth Detention Centre because I'm hoping it will be closed.
If that requires the level of the UN Committee Against Torture to intervene, then that's what it takes.
The Premier once again committing to shutting the site in 2024, but says time is still needed.
What's important is we find the right model of care, a therapeutic model of care to support our young people.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The state's nursing and midwifery union has labelled a plan by Southern Cross Care to remove its enrolled nurses as an atrocious decision. The backlash comes just 24 hours after the aged care service unveiled its new household care model.
We simply cannot have care workers replacing enrolled nurses. Our view is that this will do nothing to improve the safety and quality of care of residents.
The union is currently supporting its members who work at a number of the sites to raise their concerns to management. Well, the Australian Federal Police has charged a New Zealand woman with drug trafficking following a search at Hobart Airport over the weekend. The 49-year-old had travelled to the city on a flight from Auckland on Sunday. It's alleged Border Force officers found 130 tablets of temazepam and 26 diazepam tablets in the woman's luggage without a prescription. She faced Hobart Magistrates Court yesterday and was remanded in custody until her next appearance. Federal Police say the arrest was the first since international flights resumed into Hobart earlier this year. The police officers behind a major investigation into the murder of Tasmanian tattoo artist Dwayne Davies have been recognised for their commitment to the complex case. They were honoured as part of special awards handed down by the Commissioner to celebrate bravery, courage and devotion in the force.
Hours of hard work behind the scenes resulting in justice for a family was the ultimate outcome for these police officers.
We had a very difficult task and it was one of the most difficult, complex investigations that I've been involved in, with more moving parts than I can think of.
Brad Conyers and Nick Smith were part of a dedicated team who undertook Operation Garden in relation to the prominent murder investigation of Dwayne Davies back in 2017.
And significant incidents that we do investigate are ones that you remember, and we were probably figureheads of a big team.
They were officially recognised today for the role they played at the Commissioner's Commendations and Appreciation Ceremony, joined by a number of colleagues who've also gone above and beyond in their career.
There's a great sense of pride, and particularly organisational pride, that we can get those types of results for the public.
Commander Mark Mewers among them, adding a 40-year clasp to his medal collection after a long-standing commitment.
I feel very humbled by the award today because you sort of feel like you're just doing your job, and I've been very fortunate to, over the years, to have worked with some great people.
While also accepting her own 35-year recognition, new Commissioner Donna Adams handed down the accolades for the first time since taking the role, sharing the stories of appreciation from the community.
He highlighted his local police officers' commitment to his community when following a fatal crash which had a major impact on volunteer ambulance crews.
In what's a special day for the entire policing fraternity. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Many Tasmanians woke to snow in their backyards, down to around 400 metres after wild weather lashed parts of the state overnight. Decent falls were captured in the Huon Valley as temperatures dipped. Rainfall totals of up to 70 millimetres were recorded. Emergency services urging the community to still take care.
With these fronts as they cross the state, it does bring hazardous situations to the state. From the SES perspective, riverine flooding or increases in the riverine system is of concern to us.
We do end up getting some pretty interesting systems at this time of the year as we get a sort of an epic battle between the warmer weather coming from the north and the Antarctic cold air coming up from the south.
A number of roads are closed as a result, with flood warnings remaining in place. The Bureau is expecting the wet conditions to ease from tomorrow. The 10-year-old Tasmanian boy has reunited with the paramedics who came to his aid and saved his life. He suffered a dangerous asthma attack, with his mother performing CPR for more than 20 minutes with phone support.
This close-knit family nearly losing one of their own when a severe asthma attack saw 10-year-old Nathaniel laying unresponsive on their front porch.
The thought of losing your child right in front of your eyes is so heartbreaking.
Jolene doing what any mother would, performing CPR on her child with phone call support from Ambulance Tasmania.
10 minutes into the call, he sort of stopped breathing and lost consciousness, and I think he might have passed away for a few minutes.
She was not calm, but she was impressive. I'm so incredibly proud of her.
Meanwhile, paramedics were rushing to the family's Nichols Rivulet home.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shaking on the way to this job. It's nothing, you never want to get a 10-year-old male not breathing.
On-ground ambulance units were the first to arrive, keeping Nathaniel's airways open and pumping the small child with adrenaline before the helicopter swooped in to help.
We can bring the emergency department or the intensive care department to where the patient is, to the roadside, to the field, wherever they are, so that we can do those time-critical interventions.
1 month later, and Nathaniel is back to good health, reuniting with the people who saved his life.
It's so lovely, so lovely. Everyone's exactly as I imagined, but you all seem so much smaller for some reason. Even Natty, I remember you being this tiny little thing that we had to look after.
Nathaniel expressing his gratitude through song. A beautiful ending to a nearly fatal situation. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
The popular insurance company has added another Tasmanian tourism hotspot to its books. NRMA acquiring Pump House Point, the iconic wilderness retreat sitting on the edge of Lake St Clair. The investment is part of an expansion strategy into experiential tourism. The company hoping to showcase Tasmania's natural beauty and work with local partners as well as a broader community. The acquisition adds to NRMA's Tasmanian portfolio, including Freycinet Lodge, Cradle Mountain Hotel, Strawn Village and Gordon River Cruises. Labor wants the state government to focus on the cost of living crisis, saying more Tasmanians are seeking help from local neighbourhood houses. They've called for funds for the proposed AFL stadium to be redirected.
We're concerned that the government hasn't got its priorities right, with a great focus on obsessing about a southern stadium rather than dealing with the significant issues confronting Tasmanians every single day.
In the last 12 months, I've kind of noticed more people coming in for our breads and all our food stuff, our freezer fillers.
Community Services Minister Nick Street says the Liberal government has invested more than $305 million in targeted concessions, also questioning why Labor is still refusing to support investment in major infrastructure. 30 high school students will get a taste of working at Rest Point through a program aiming to boost the tourism and hospitality sector. The Beacon Foundation is partnering with the federal group to offer a career readiness training scheme.
Young people can't be what they can't see, and so really it's fantastic to see Rest Point, really take a lead in this work.
It gives you a lot of information for how many pathways there really is in this industry, and also just introduces you into so many lovely people in it.
The foundation says the year-long program has already seen students secure work experience or a job. Another 550 students have today passed through the Tasmanian Children's University. Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe was present at a graduation ceremony in Burnie this morning. The program helps children and young people aged 7 to 14 foster a love of lifelong learning.
Learning is for life. And learning in the classroom is so important, but it's also the experiences outside the classroom that we can gain life skills from that are so very, very important.
We know that learning outside the classroom helps support learning inside the classroom.
The program was launched in 2015 with 44 schools participating.
Good evening. The Hurricanes' 3-game winning streak is over, the side going down to the Melbourne Stars by 4 wickets on a chilly but history-making day in Latrobe. The home of football hero Daryl Baldock welcomed women's Big Bash heroes to its hallowed turf for the first time, and fans peered in any way they could.
He looks pretty comfy there, though.
Lizelle Lee looked pretty comfy as well.
Oh, flicked away by Lizelle Lee. It might have gone the journey.
It sure did, and locals were loving it until she was removed the very next ball. With puffer jackets galore groundside, the Canes were about to go really cold. South African import Mignon de Pria out for 3. Rachel Treneman followed the Canes 3 for 39.
Oh, that's a big shout for LBW, and it's out.
Locals flexed their muscles. Nicola Carey copped the blows.
It's almost ricocheted up into the guard on the helmet.
Her dismissal was cursed as well. Tess Flintoff injuring her shoulder after taking the catch. Launceston's Emma Mannix-Jeeves stayed safe to push the total to 130.
It's a much-needed boundary.
The Stars couldn't believe cricket's a summer sport and no one was pulling the wool over their eyes when Carey pulled out this beauty.
They've gone for a second run. This will be a run out. That looked out.
The hottest part of the day came when Molly Strano snagged 2 quick wickets in the 17th over. But the Stars made it home with 5 balls to spare.
There it is. 4 runs to Alice Capsey. She'll finish 80 not out.
The teams play again in Latrobe tomorrow. And rain has scuppered Tasmania's chances of a win in its Sheffield Shield match against New South Wales. The Tigers last night took a 20-20 attitude to the game, racing to 2 for 176 before stumps in a desperate bid to set up a result. But today's heavy falls kept covers on throughout the day. The match was called off mid-afternoon without a ball being bowled. Tasmania will get another shot at New South Wales in the Marsh Cup on Thursday. Ulverston's Rayne Smith is rewriting the record books playing for his college basketball team. The Tasmanians scored 8 3-pointers for Charleston in the US state of South Carolina, equalling the team's all-time record.
He'll launch another 3 and it's good.
It was also a career high for Smith. Charleston beat Richmond in overtime 92-90.
Good evening. Well, on my return, I thought I'd wear some bright colours to reflect the warm, summery weather I was expecting, but it wasn't to be. Below average temperatures, and as we've seen already, snow to low levels. Hobart nearly 7 below average with just 12 degrees. Launceston 15, Burnie 14, while Devonport 16 was the warmest to 3 p.m. Some temperatures up to 11 degrees below average. Lowhead 15, Ouse, Strawn and the Islands all 14, St Helens 12, Friendly Beach is just 8, and Lyowini a high of 3. Now here's the cloud pattern today that brought 51 millimetres in the 6 hours to 3 p.m. to friendly beaches along the east coast, and Nugent recorded 29 millimetres in the same period of time. The far north of the nation has cloud bringing thunderstorms. Low-level cloud in cold air has affected most of the southern coastline of the nation, along with Tasmania. Tomorrow, a high over the Bight extends a ridge over central areas, low pressure over northern WA and a trough sits over central Queensland. Winds more south to southwesterly. They'll reach up to 30 knots at times over the east coast, swells picking up to 3.5 metres in the west and south. Strong wind warning tomorrow from Sandy Cape in the west around and down to Tasman Island. We have moderate and minor flood warnings existing for many rivers and catchments. Full details are on the Bureau's website, and a warning to sheep graziers in the Midlands, east coast, southeast and upper Derwent Valley. Into tomorrow we go, and Hobart showery and 13. 4 overnight for Geeveston, showers tomorrow, 13 the top as well, 11 the high for Bothwell. Launceston looking towards 15 degrees, becoming cloudy, partly cloudy for Devonport, just 14 the top for Cressy after a cool evening. 14 for Burnie and partly cloudy, showery for Strawn, 14 also for Curry on King Island. St Helens tomorrow a top of 14 with a possible shower, Swansea 13 along with Orford. UV at a very high 8. On to Thursday now, a cloudy day with possible light showers over the west and south. Partly cloudy conditions on Friday, a sunny 20 in Strawn, and on Saturday conditions deteriorating again with showers developing over the northwest in the afternoon, extending statewide later. Sunny and 31 in Perth tomorrow, cloudy weather for Adelaide, showers for Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney, windy but fine and 31 in Brisbane. And here are the current conditions. Cloudy in Hobart, it's 9 degrees, 12 right now in Launceston and Devonport. I have been away a little while, Kim, yes, but a few people have been keeping me abreast of things happening here. I do have a question for you. You haven't been making fun of me while I've been away, have you?
Not at all. We would never do that to you, Merv. Not at all. Actually, now that we're back, we do expect the weather to improve. Let's see how that goes. That is all your news for now. We'll have updates later. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.